Hello. All right, so this is a special edition of Ask Me Anything, or I should say Ask Me Anything about real estate, because I don't really have anything to talk about except the real estate. So ask me anything about the real estate. Now, I run a Facebook group called Become a Real Estate Investor with Whitney Nicely. And I'm going to share this into the Facebook group and see what kind of questions that we can come up with. So if you have any questions, I will do. Ooh, okay, so if you have any questions that pop up, please put them in the comment under this video. And if you're watching this on the replay and you have a question that you want me to cover in the future, let me know about that too. All right, totally cool. I'm here to help you. I honest to goodness think that everybody should be a real estate investor. And so I am making it my mission to get rid of all of the cloudiness and the crap that a lot of the guys promote when they talk about real estate investing. And I'm here to really speak real estate to everybody. I think everybody needs a real estate portfolio, and the only way that you're going to get started buying houses and apartments and doing private money lending and buying notes and learning about luxury houses is to really understand it. If you don't understand it, you're just not going to get started. So I'll start off some of the questions that I get asked a lot. And so when you join, if you'll drop your questions down below, and I'll be happy to answer them for you. All right. So one of the questions I get, and I'm speaking on a panel this weekend in Clarksville, Tennessee. The lady found me, or she's been following me on Instagram for probably a year or more. And she just reached out and she was like, hey, I'm having this conference. It's all women entrepreneurs, women in business, and we need somebody to come and talk about real estate because it, at least in my part of the country, everybody just kind of assumes one day they're going to own a bunch of houses. One day they're going to figure out how to become a landlord. One day they're going to have lots of extra money that they can invest into real estate. One day, somehow, some way, they're just going to wake up and have it all done. Most people don't have a plan to actually get started and get moving and keep it rocking and rolling. So this lady reached out to me on Instagram and she was like, I want you to come talk to these business owners about real estate investing. I want you to talk to them about passive income. I want you to talk to them about buying houses without money, without banks, without using your credit. And I really want you to tell them that you do this and it's not illegal and it's not awful and it's not immoral. Tell the world how they can get started without needing any money. How people can get started without using their credit. Let people know more about what it is that you do. So I totally agreed. I was like, hey, yeah, heck yeah, count me in. I am there, right? It's a group of women who want to talk about business and real estate. I can't think of a more fun activity to do on a Saturday, to be honest with you, but I'm a complete real estate nerd. So let's talk about this whole no money thing first. All right, because we as a society have been conditioned to think that you put 5 to 20% down on a house and you move in it and you make the payments for 30 years and then it's yours. We aren't taught to do the actual math on how much we're paying for that house. We're taught just to focus on what the monthly payment is. Save up the money that we have money to put down and then focus on making the monthly payment. And in 30 years, poof, it'll be gone. Well, I'm 33 years old right now. And the thought of paying on anything for most of the next future lifetime that I have scares the crap out of me. Okay? You're telling me I've been here for 33 years, and now if I want to buy real estate, I have to sign on this dotted line to be committed to this house for the next 30 years. Like, do you know the changes that have gone on in here, in my body and in my mind in the last 30 years? But for some reason, people are like, yeah, that's just how we buy houses. Are you kidding me? And I don't know if it's because I'm a millennial or if it's because I really am just that crazy. But signing on for anything other than marriage for 30 years sounds like a prison sentence. Not to mention, I am the only one that's expected to contribute to this payment and this mortgage and this situation. That just don't make any sense. What if I decide I want to move? What if I get a better job? What if I don't have this job next year? Like, just committing to 30 years sounds like actually committing to craziness. But we've all bought into it, right? How many of you know somebody with a mortgage? I mean, I know plenty of people with a mortgage. And that's how we've been buying houses since like 1922. Oh, yeah. Mortgages, the way we do mortgages now, they were invented in the early 1920s. Real estate agents were invented as a profession in like 1915 or maybe 1923, but like the early 1900s, like real estate agents haven't been around for a full 100 years, I don't think. The National Association of National Association of Realtors, they haven't had a 100th birthday. I'm pretty sure. Y'all check on that, but I'm pretty sure they haven't even been around for 100 years. All right. After World War II is when we as a country decided to stop paying cash for houses and to start getting mortgages. And that's when, if you look at the graph, it's like the price of houses was, going up a little bit, but in like the 40s and 50s, it went whoop, because everybody decided they wanted to get a mortgage. And it's totally cool. Mortgages are fine. I'm not down on mortgages. I plan on getting one eventually. Maybe. Probably not, though. But the big point is that doesn't have to be the way you buy houses. You don't have to be the one that lives in that house. You don't have to go through a mortgage broker to buy a house. The way I teach people how to buy houses, if there's a mortgage on the house, we leave it. We leave that mortgage in place. We don't touch it, because there's not a bank in the world that will tell somebody that they can't rent their house if there's a mortgage on it. So I am a professional tenant. I'm a professional renter, y'all. I agree to start making payments on houses with somebody else's name on the mortgage. Because think about it, if I was just renting a house, somebody else's name would be on the mortgage and I'd be making the payments, right? Right? If I was just a regular renter, I could move into somebody's house, the mortgage would be in their name, but I would be making the payments. So that's what I do when I buy houses. I basically just take over people's mortgage payments, but I do it in a way that doesn't have, the title doesn't transfer to my name. The mortgage does not transfer to my name. I just start making their payments. I get a copy of their statement with all their information, and I send the payment directly to the bank. Did you know that the mortgage company doesn't care if the check comes from me or from you? They just want to be paid. So what's cool about the way I buy houses is I don't have to get that 5 to 20% to put down, because that 5 to 20% that you put down is mostly eaten up in origination fees for people that are pushing the paperwork. A lot of times, if somebody's buying a $100,000 house and they had to put 5% down, when they start making their payment, they still owe $100,000 because that $5,000 got eaten up with origination fees, got eaten up with closing costs, got eaten up with paying taxes in advance and paying insurance in advance and paying real estate agents and paying appraisers and paying surveyors and pest control people and like inspectors. A lot of times, if you're buying a $100,000 house and you put $5,000 down, when you get your balance, you still owe $100,000, if not 101 or 102. And for the first like 3 or 4 years that you're making that payment on that house, most of your payment is going straight towards interest, not principal. So if you pay $1,000 a month on a $100,000 house, on a straight line appreciation, after 12 months, you would have paid off $12,000, right? Oh, no, no, no. That's not how it works, because we pay interest first. You will probably pay $975 in interest. So that $25 a month goes towards your principal, so that in 12 months, you still owe $99,000 or more. The bank gets their interest first. The first 10 or 15 years that you pay on a mortgage, you're mostly paying interest, because the bank is taking a risk of giving you a mortgage. It's not until after 15 or 18 years on a 30-year mortgage do you actually really start to make traction on paying off the principal. That means if you bought a $100,000 house, there's a good chance, depending on what interest rate you agreed to when you bought the house, there's a good chance you'll pay $175,000 for that house. That's how interest works. That's how mortgages work. That's why, people like Dave Ramsey or other, financial people will teach you or ask you or beg you to either make 13 payments a year, so that one payment every year goes straight towards principal, or they ask you to pay. Sometimes people want you to pay your mortgage bi-weekly. So every other week you make a mortgage payment, so that you don't, oh, my lipstick looks bad. So that you don't ever you don't give the interest a chance to really build up. You're always paying a little bit down on it so that you save some interest. Another way that you could do it is you could make weekly payments, or you could make a flat. If your payment was $1,000 a month, you could pay maybe $1,500 a month. So you make a payment and a half every month, with $500 going straight towards the principal. Does that make sense? So what I do is I find people that have had their house for 5 or 10 years, because, based on that kind of math, if you've had your house for 5 or 10 years, you've mostly just paid interest. So you owe pretty much close, maybe $10 or $15 or $20,000 less than what you originally paid on it. But that's perfect for me, because if you paid on a $100,000 house, if you paid $100,000 10 years ago and you've been making $1,000 a month payment and you've been paying mostly interest, maybe after 10 years, maybe you owe 80 or 85,000 on that house, but you've had the house for 10 years and maybe it's worth 105 or 110. Does that make sense? Y'all still with me on the math? So what I do is I find sellers who owe 80 or 85 on a $105 or $110,000 house, and I agree to start making those payments for them in 90 days. I find sellers who don't want the house anymore, or they started renting the house and they decided they didn't want to be landlords, or, for whatever various reason, they just don't want to deal with this house anymore. And they've got something going on in their life that they don't want to list it. They don't want to cash out of it. They don't want to deal with it. All they want is somebody to take over these payments for them. So I tell them that if they'll make the next 3 payments, I'll pay for it for the next 5 or 10 years, however long they want me to. And I can do that because the bank doesn't care who makes the mortgage payment, because these people aren't asking somebody to bring $85,000 and cash out their house. That's not their problem. They don't need the house cashed out. They just need this payment to go away. They don't need 5 to 20% down on this house because they don't need money. They just need this payment to go away. And I agree to start making their payments in 3 months. Once I start making the payment, it's good for me because I bought the house at what they owed. If they owe 80 or 85,000, I'll give them 80 or 85,000. I'll start making their payments in 3 months. It'll take me 5 or 10 years to cash out this house. The beautiful part of this is, let's say they're paying $800 a month, including taxes and insurance. Well, if they're paying $800 a month and they owe 80 or 85,000 on this house, and I didn't put any money down to start this deal, I'm good, right? I, as a professional tenant, now have the right to buy the house. The way I do lease options, I can buy the house for what they owe on it within 5 or 10 years. I can make these payments for them for 5 or 10 years. I'll keep up all the maintenance, all the responsibility, all the headaches of this house. And it also gives me the right to sublease this house. So my deal is for, let's say, $85,800 a month for 10 years. I'm going to pay $800 a month for 10 years. And every month when I make my payment, I owe less and less and less and less. And that all depends on the seller and the deal and how much they're getting paid down. And don't worry about that too much, but I do get credit every single month, so that at the end of my 10 years, I owe 60 or 65. Something. I owe less. Every month it comes down. Not a whole lot, because they're not getting a lot of credit either, but some. Okay? But on the flip side of that, I can find somebody who has questionable credit. I can find somebody who is self-employed. Do you know that banks don't like to loan to self-employed people? I have a friend right now who makes over $1 million a year in her online business, and she's trying to buy a $430,000 house in Texas, and the bank won't give her a loan. She makes twice as much, more than twice as much as that house costs every single year, but because she's self-employed, the bank won't give her a loan. Okay, so I can find somebody who's self-employed. I can find somebody that has had something happen to their credit and they need time to improve it. Or I can find somebody that's moving to the area and they need to get their job history established. The banks, local banks, want to see that they will have a job and they'll be able to make the payments and that they're committed to staying here. All right, there's all sorts of reasons that people can't just go get a mortgage. You and I can probably go get a mortgage, but lots of people can't. The thing is, these people who can't go get a mortgage, they have money and they don't want to rent. So I take this house that I have this deal on and I put it out on Zillow, Craigslist, and Facebook. And I say, hey, y'all, anybody want to give me $105,000? You can put maybe 10 or 15,000 down and move in after we get your application and, verify that you are who you say you are, and you'll be able to buy this house in a year or two. And all you got to do is pay me $1,100 a month. And y'all will be surprised, pleasantly surprised and shocked by the amount of phone calls that you will get from people who have $5, $10, $15,000 and are willing to pay $1,000, $1,100, or $1,200 for this house. And you can give them a year or two to be able to get the mortgage and actually cash you out of this deal. So in this scenario, if I'm selling it for $1,100 a month and a purchase price of $105, and I give them a year, and they give me, let's say, $10,000 to move in, I can make money 3 different ways, because I made money when they moved in because they gave me $10,000. Did I say 10 or 15? They gave me $10,000 to move in, and I didn't give the seller anything. So I'm a zero to the seller, but somebody has paid me $10,000. So I just made 10 grand, right? My payment to the seller is $800. But these people have agreed to give me $1,100. So now I'm making $300 a month times 12 months, $3,600. Also, if these people do get their mortgage in a year, because I've got 10 years with my seller before I have to cash it out, so I'm not really worried about it, but I give my buyers a year. And when I give them a year, if they get their mortgage, I owe 85, and maybe I owe a little bit less, maybe I owe 84. But they bought it for 105, and they gave me 10,000, and I only give my people the first 5,000 that they give me is mine. So if they give me 10,000, 5,000 of it goes off their purchase price if they get a mortgage. So in a year, these people are going to owe me $100,000, which means I'm going to make $15,000 because I owe 85 and they owe me 100. So I made 10,000 when they moved in. I made 300 a month, 3,600, and I made 15,000 because that's the difference of what I paid, what I agreed to pay, and what they paid me. So 10 and 15 is 25,000, and 36, $28,000. And that's just if the first people buy the house from me. If in a year they decide they don't like the house and they don't want the house, they can move. Most of them do. When they move, I find somebody else to give me $10,000 to move in. I give them a year. But what's cool now is if they buy it at the end of their year, it's actually the second year that I've had the house. So I probably owe $80,000, but they're still giving me 105. So now I'm going to make 20,000 in the back end payday, and I made another 10,000 when somebody moved in. And I made the 3,600 for another year. So now I've made 7,200. So now I'm going to need a pen. Now I made 28,600 the first year. Somebody else gave me 10,000 to move. I made another to move in. I made another 3,600, and this time I made 20,000 when they got their mortgage. Oh wait, the other people didn't get their mortgage, so I didn't get that 15. So I'm down to 13,600 plus 10 plus 3,600 plus 20 when they get their mortgage at the end of 10 years. So there's a 2, 7. Now I've made 3,700. And I still didn't have to put my money down. I still didn't have to get the mortgage in my name. I still didn't have to have anybody pull my credit because the mortgage stayed in the seller's name. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, like why it's so exciting? God, my lipstick looks rough. Seriously, buying houses without using your own money, buying houses without using your own credit, buying houses without going to the bank and getting a mortgage broker, it's totally possible. I've done it like 57 times, more than 57 times now, because that doesn't even count the ones that I've done this year. The secret is you got to find these sellers who just don't want their house anymore. They don't love their house anymore. They don't need their house anymore. They don't want to deal with their house anymore. They're tired of being landlords. Some of them inherited the properties. Sometimes a lot of my best sellers actually come from divorces, because when people get divorced, somebody keeps the house until they fall in love again. And then their new person doesn't want to live in the old ghost's house. And I end up with a lot of divorced houses. Those sellers are amazing. And once you get in a good rhythm of knowing where your honey hole is, knowing like where in the world you want to buy, where you can get your deals done, where you can talk to sellers, where you can get a hold of sellers, where they're not all getting blasted all the time by, wholesalers and bandit signs and other investors and those people. Like, once you figure out where your spot is, then it's a lot easier to find sellers who are going to be interested in what you offer. I promise. Because that's the hardest part. Finding your honey hole, finding where you want to be, finding the spot near your town, or not even near your town sometimes. I have one lady lives in California and invests in Colorado. That's nowhere near where she lives. But she's found a really sweet honey hole. But finding where you're going to be invested, and then finding who you can start helping. Once you get those two things down, the rest of it's seriously just paperwork. So, like, once you get past all the crap in your head that says, this is too weird, I don't know if this is gonna happen, I don't know, like, once you get rid of all that and you find where you're supposed to be and who you're supposed to help, we just sign contracts every week, because suddenly you're not talking to people who don't need your help and who don't want your help. Suddenly you're not driving all the way around the world when all you had to do was drive 15 minutes and then there'd be 5 or 6 sellers that you could go talk to this week. I'm never going to say that real estate investing is easy. None of this is easy. Nothing worth having is easy. But I will say that it's pretty simple. It really is simple to put this process into place, put these systems into place, and to get in this rhythm of making offers. In First Deal Done Fast, I really hammer in and I send a lilac pad of paper because I want everybody to get in the practice of making 3 offers on every single house that they look at. We make a cash offer and we make 2 lease option offers, or we make a cash offer or we make 2 owner financing offers. We always make 3 offers. And if you're a real estate agent, you make 4 offers because you can always list the thing. The hard part is getting the appointment. The hard part is finding out what they'll really take. But women are so good at real estate because we have this natural, I don't even know if it's a maternal thing or not, but we have this natural way of getting down to what's really going on and learning the real story from these sellers. And women are trustworthy, and guys are trustworthy too. Don't get me wrong here, but a lot of times the men are more worried about the deal and the numbers, whereas the seller, this is a part of them. This is something that they've been attached to for maybe their whole life. They have an emotional attachment to it, and it's easier for women to tap into that with the seller. And my husband, I know, Jason, he hates dealing with houses because he doesn't like listening to the seller's stories. He doesn't like knowing, he always jokes that he doesn't care if your grandpa built this house and he doesn't care about this and that and the other. Whereas I know that if I will listen to the seller's stories, they'll like me because I took the time to really get to know them and to really find out how I can best help them. And that's why women make the best investors. They ask the right kinds of questions. They build relationships. People trust them. They know they can confide in them. Because you're talking to sellers a lot of times that have, real estate sins. They're a little bit embarrassed. They don't really want anybody to know how bad the house is. They don't really want anybody to know that they're about to not be able to afford the payments. They don't want anybody to know that they don't have it rented, that they haven't had it rented, that they've been making payments on an empty house for like a year or more. People have real estate sins, and women are amazing, comforting creatures with the ability to come in and say, you know what? It's totally cool. I can help you with this. Here's my 3 offers. Sign here. And there is some negotiating finesse that goes on in First Deal Done Fast, but it's nothing slimy. It's nothing sleazy. It's you being you and helping sellers who want you to help them. And the deals just line up. So I hope this made sense. I hope maybe that's clarified a little bit for you, what I do and how I do it and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to check and see if anybody has left any questions. Anybody have any questions? Yes. Okay. So can a lease with option work in a low income area? Yes, you can do a lease option in a low income area. You can also do a lease option in a high income area. Lease options work as long as the seller will let you make their payment and as long as you can find somebody to move in the house and make the payment for you. It works on high end. It works on low end. It is amazing in middle class neighborhoods. And I would honestly rather work in middle class neighborhoods because there's more buyers, there's more sellers, there's more people wanting to buy and sell. If you're in a low income area, you're going to have low income buyers. They're not going to have 10 or 15,000 to move in. They might have 5 or 6,000. But if you're in a high income area, the people that want to move in may have 50 or 75,000 to move in, but there's not going to be as many people walking around with 50 or 75,000 to move into your house as in the middle income areas where you're going to find lots of people with 10 and 15,000 to move in. Honest to goodness, you're going to find lots of people with 10 to 15,000 to be able to move into your house. So I vote for midway. Not too high and not too low. And I hate to give a number on that because in Knoxville, between 120 and 150, you could buy just about anything. There's tons of houses selling in that market. There's tons of people wanting to buy in that market. There's lots of opportunities. But in other parts of the world, you need to be at 200 to 230, or you need to be at 470 to 500. So the numbers, the actual numbers don't bother me as much, but the being in that gap of where most of the houses are selling and most of the buyers can afford. That's where you want to be. No matter what the number is and what market you're in, you just want to be in that sweet spot. Not too high and not too low. Not too high, not too low and not too high. You know what I mean? Josie wants to know, when sellers call, what's the first question that I ask? Josie, you're in First Deal Done Fast, and last week, I don't know if you saw this or not, but last week I added a call center. So I've actually recorded calls with sellers and with buyers. So you can go listen to those and you can actually hear me on the phone. Sometimes I am making the calls, and so I'm going through the seller lead sheet that way. sometimes I'm receiving the calls in and you can tell that I'm a little bit like, the best way to start is to say, what can you tell me about this house? And get them talking. You know, if you found the house on Zillow, you may know a lot about it. If you send a yellow letter and they're calling back, you may not know anything about the house. So by just saying, hey, what can you tell me? All right, let's go from there. Where is this house? What's the address? Make sure that you're making a conversation, that you're creating. Awesome. You're looking at the bonus calls now. Make sure you're creating a relationship. Make sure that this is natural and it flows for you and the way you like to have conversations. So I think that will help you a great deal. Does anybody else have any questions? But that's what I do. That's the nuts and bolts of it. That's what I'm going to be talking about Saturday in Nashville, how you can buy these houses without any money, without any credit, and without any banks involved. And as soon as we get off here, I'm going to go get some new lipstick. I got some Lip Sense lipstick. Y'all ever tried that? It stings when it goes on, and then you just kind of keep putting the lip gloss on. It's amazing, but then you end up looking kind of splotchy after lunch. So anyway, if you have any other questions, if you like the Ask Me Anything, let me know. All right. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you learned something. And if you have anything else that you want me to cover, just let me know. I'll hop in and answer as many questions as I can, because I want you to get these deals done. You can start in First Deal Done Fast if you want to. You can join group coaching, First Deal Done Fast Plus. You can join the mastermind. You can come to Blissful Buy and Holds in May. We're going to have another workshop in August. We're going to have another one in October. And then we'll have one in Knoxville, First Deal Done Fast Live, at the end of November. And I hold these live events for you because the internet's amazing. Facebook is rocking my world, but nothing beats face-to-face interaction, actually being with people, asking them questions, getting to know them, and creating that real relationship to get these deals done. All right, I'm here for you. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know what you're struggling with. Let me know how I can help, and let's get that money, honey. All right. Bye, y'all. See you later.